if you should visit a place that has a lake in the woods and a beautiful waterfall, then you may also find 10 little engines. 6 of them are steam, the other 4 are diesel. The engines know everybody, and everybody knows them. However, this is not one of those stories. This is me enjoying a Welsh holiday in the great year of 2019, at a railway that I'd only learnt existed a few months earlier, ironically while reading the foreword of its railway series counterpart. Despite how long it's taken part 2 of my Welsh holiday to come out, this won't be an in-depth documentary, I'm afraid, but will simply be showing how much fun I had on the Tallylyn. We departed Gwernol station behind Sir Hayden, ready for a riveting day out. Before visiting this line, I'd done literally no research, apart from what the engines looked like, so I didn't know what to expect. Shortly after leaving the station, my camera decided to not work for a moment, so I didn't get the nice shot I was planning on, but I did manage to snap this photo very quickly. This is part of a winch from the winding house that was destroyed during the extension of the line. If you don't know how an incline railway works, it shall now be explained to you by Michael Angelis.
They reached the quarry where the trucks were needed. Empty trucks at the bottom of the slope are hitched to a steel rope. Loaded ones at the top are hitched to another. By their weight, loaded trucks run down the steep slope, pulling the empty ones up.
Not the most magical thing in the world, but interesting nonetheless. On approach to the next station, we passed some rusty tipper wagons waiting in a siding, and given their condition, I can only assume they haven't been used since the line's industrial days. It is worth noting that the original incline served the village of Gwernol instead of being exclusively industrial, and in a recent video on the Tallylyn's YouTube channel, they have announced a replica of sorts to pay homage to the original winding house that was destroyed during the extension. We then arrived at the end of the line at Nant, Gwernol. We watched Sir Hayden run round the train in preparation for our trip down to the wharf. It is worth noting that you may wish to alight here for various trails, one of which follows the river and takes you to the remains of the Bryn Eglwys slate quarry. I would like to apologise for my Welsh pronunciation throughout this entire video. Being a Devonshire man, Welsh is not the easiest thing to wrap my head round. In a few moments we shall see Sir Hayden carefully buffer up, and we shall be on our way. Ooh, sprung buffers. Lovely stuff. We made our way back to Gwernol at a leisurely pace, with the entire coach almost all to ourselves. We now passed the signal box, which was built in response to the Nant Gwernol extension. When the new part of the line was opened in 1976, it was suddenly possible to accommodate 2 trains at once, and so they needed an improved signalling system. Rather fittingly, it was constructed using salvaged slate blocks from the nearby Bryn Eglwys quarry. As you'll hear a younger me say in a few seconds, I couldn't find an exact answer to what these buildings were, So if any of you know, please let me know in the comments.
Not a clue, but it looks interesting.
As we headed away from the railway's original passenger terminus, the trees began to thin, and we were able to finally appreciate the Welsh landscape for what it was. I am aware this is just a shot of the field, but I believe I was taken by the vibrant yellow colour of the flowers. Rather fittingly, we passed Dolgoch, on approach to the station that shares the same name. This is because both loco and station are named after the waterfall that resides near the halt. We would have gotten off and viewed the lovely waterfall, however, we didn't have time. I plan to return to see an Audrey extravaganza at some point, and I will make sure to go and actually see the waterfall this time. I must say, viewers, if you are looking for more of a comprehensive look around the railway, I encourage you to either check out Terrier55 Stepney's channel or the Tallylyn official page, both of which will be linked in the description. On approach to Brynglas station, it felt as if we were gathering some proper speed. With the sun out shining brightly, as I'm sure you can see, the Welsh landscape did not disappoint. An interesting fact about Brynglas block post is that there was a rowan tree planted opposite it to mark as a memorial for the Reverend W. Audrey's contributions towards the railway. We now pass number 4, Edwin Thomas, waiting to go the opposite direction with a full train of passengers. I love how this immediately dates the footage, because at the time of recording this voiceover, Edwin Thomas is wearing a photographic grey sort of livery, which is supposed to be resemblant of what she wore on the Corris Railway, as opposed to the equally lovely green we see her in here. Passing under the bridge, we now pull into Rhydyronan station, which was definitely the hardest to pronounce out of all of them, and I'm still not convinced I'm doing it correctly. Lovely to see the Crocosmia there just behind the wall, adding a splash of colour to the station platform. After taking on all those passengers, our train was nearly fit to burst. However, Sir Hayden carried on regardless. And with a cheery wave, we set off again. Whilst this footage doesn't show much, I thought I'd leave it in for a bit of fun. You get the odd sheep in the foreground and some lovely Welsh hills in the back. So, what's not to love? With some bonus cows at the end, just because I love you guys. Pulling into the wharf, we see Alf and Midlander taking a rest in the sun, with various bits of maintenance machinery behind them. Although we did not get a chance to see them running that day, I am very glad that we saw them nonetheless. We now pull into Tallylyn Wharf Station. This is where, historically, the slate would have been transferred from the narrow gauge wagons into standard gauge ones. And I must say, I loved the window boxes. I was very happy to see that Douglas would be in charge of bringing us back to Gwernol, and while watching her run round the train, I couldn't resist setting it to this music.
I get no rest. I get no rest, he complained.
Douglas is, of course, a well tank, meaning water is stored in a tank below the boiler. Built by Andrew Barclay and Company, She was donated to the Tallylyn in 1953. Bearing in mind this is the first time I'd seen the loco in person, the RAF roundels did confuse me, but after a bit of research after filming, I found out it was because of the RAF 100 years anniversary, hence the number on the back of the cab, given that Douglas herself did work on an RAF railway. After watching Douglas be expertly coupled to the train, we then moved in the station building, where I got this lovely shot from the balcony, showing Sir Hayden and Douglas at opposite ends of our train, with a pan over the yards coming to rest on the main line. We then moved on to arguably the most interesting part of the wharf, the museum. I won't tell you much about the exhibits, mainly because I can't remember what the plaques said next to them, but also because I don't want to spoil your visit when you eventually make the time to go here. Bearing in mind I had no idea what this museum held, imagine my surprise when we walked upstairs to see some models of some rather recognisable Sudrian faces. And to boot, an audiobook was being played in the background, with a rather familiar voice.
Rheneas and I, continued Skarloey, used to take turns at pulling the trains. We know everybody and everybody knows us.
And with that, I was blown away. A faithful recreation of the Audrey study, complete with donated models and original layout features. I don't have an exact list on me, but since filming, even more artifacts have been donated to the museum. The Reverend began his volunteering in 1952 as a guard on the Tallylyn, only a year after it had become a volunteer-run line, with some events in his books being based on real events that occurred on the railway. After a very interesting look around the museum, it was time to get back on the train for the return journey. However, as I'm sure you can hear the guard saying, several passengers were missing, so we had to wait until they returned before we could set off. We wouldn't want a refreshment lady style situation, would we? I must pre-warn you viewers, I did not film much of the journey back as to not repeat myself, and because I wanted to just enjoy the ride with my family, rather than trying to get a good shot. Some of you more die-hard Tallylyn fans may notice some of the rolling landscape footage is out of order. The idea behind this is for better pacing within the video, and to keep the more casual viewers' first visit interesting. I've used this technique in a few of my videos actually, just to keep you lot on the ball. Not the highest quality of slow motion camera work I've ever seen, but I thought it was still worth leaving in.
I think it's nice, said Peter-san.
Oh, I thought I heard something then. Anyway, I must say, Skarloey Blue is lovely, but the gorgeous red on these coaches is fabulous. We then disembarked at Gwernol, having had a lovely day out. We now end the video with a shot of Douglas gently pulling out of Gwernol.
Stand back.
I tried to get my sister to wave at the guard so that I could keep both hands on the camera, but we didn't get the timing quite right. As my Welsh holiday finally comes to an end, I wish you all a pleasant evening. Goodbye!